You know, in an HOA, it's necessary for board members and homeowners to work together in a partnership. But sometimes disagreements between people can lead to tension. And that tension can get worse and worse. And eventually, one person snaps and hurts the other person. The purpose of this presentation is to learn how to reduce tension and work together to solve problems.
Hello, I'm Mary Rendina, Executive Director of the Nevada chapter of the Community Associations Institute, and I'd like to welcome you to the CAI Media presentation. CAI provides comprehensive education to board members, homeowners, and community managers. This presentation series, developed by CAI's Nevada chapter, brings educational information to board members all around our state, and it has been developed and presented by experienced board members, all of whom have completed CAI's award-winning Decal Education Series. We thank our generous sponsors who make these free presentations possible.
We at the Nevada Real Estate Division applaud you for volunteering to serve as a board member on your homeowners association.
Board members play a vital role in successful HOA management, which is why we believe that board member training and ongoing education is critical.
We're proud to support the effort of CAI's Nevada chapter to provide this innovative digital media training.
We'd also like to remind you that you can also contact the Real Estate Division or CAI for additional help.
Enjoy the presentation.
Hello and welcome to this presentation. I'm Greg Toussaint and I'm joined by my partner in crime, Chuck Niggemeyer. We're both longtime board members. Believe it or not, Chuck.
25 years. Wow, that's a lot of time.
Between the two of us, we've got 25 years of board experience. So we've made a lot of the mistakes that we all make as board members.
Probably haven't made them all, but we've made a few.
There's still time to make some more?
Still time to make more, yep.
And both of us have completed CAI, or Community Association Institute's dedicated Community Association Leadership Program, or DECAL. And that means we've attended a lot of classes on how to be a good board member, what it takes to be a good board member. And we hope that our experience and training will actually benefit you and your community. Now, for those of you who never seen this guy on the slide, in your meetings, you're lucky.
This guy?
This guy.
Oh,
this is the guy. This is the guy.
What you mean? Okay.
And I think really, haven't we all seen this guy? In this four-part presentation, we're going to tackle the difficult problem of how do you deal with anger in association meetings. Most of us, aren't necessarily prepared for that. The problem with angry people is simple. They're not listening.
Oh, I heard what you said?
Exactly.
Okay, got it.
They're too busy thinking about what they're going to say next in response to you.
Okay.
So they don't really solve problems. They just argue. So the goal of this presentation is to find ways we can disarm anger in angry situations in our meetings and avoid making things worse.
So in our class outline, which you see on the slides in front of you, in the first segment, we're going to take a look at why people get mad. There are reasons. If we can't fix the problem, if we don't understand it, we won't. In the second segment, we'll discuss how we get through this with kind of a neighborly tone. We put everything down and get the temperature down to where everybody can kind of get along with each other. In the third part, we want to talk about why board members sometimes are part of the program they actually create problems and they don't realize it. And then we'll sum it all up at the end, but kind of tell you how to handle that. And we've got some recommendations on things that we can kind of make the temper and the anger go on down.
Because there are some people that they're not going to stop being angry.
So why do people get mad?
Why do people get mad in a meeting? Or why do they show up mad?
Well, I don't know.
There's two different situations.
So tell me.
Well, the first thing is, if you think about it, the system's set up to create contention, anger, and conflict.
Okay.
It does. There's people you've never met that you've got to talk to. They're criticizing the things you really care about.
You mean people that that live around us don't know us?
They don't know us.
Wow. I didn't think
They criticize your house. They criticize your yard. They criticize how you drive. They criticize where you park.
What about pets? I
Don't
bet
like
they have
your
a problem
pets.
with that too, right?
People, pets, and parking, right?
That's it.
Most of the things, though, these are intimate things in your life that you care about these things. And you're not only criticized,
Wow.
you're threatened too. Can you believe you're threatened?
Well, you know, I can see where that might happen, you know, could be.
Have you ever gotten one of those courtesy letters?
What? A courtesy, but they're courtesy.
Yeah.
They're nice, aren't they?
They do start off that way, don't they? They
Most
tell
of
you
the
about, you know, and we're sure you love this community as much as we all do.
I do.
But there's something you didn't notice, perhaps, that
Oh,
the
now.
paint on your eaves,
What? What's wrong with the paint on my eaves?
it's peeling.
What, peeling?
Yeah.
Hey, wait a minute. I'm not going to take this. You know, hey, does everybody in the community know that? I bet they do. I bet they're talking about me, aren't they? Okay? You know that guy down the street? You know, his stuff is worse than mine.
Chuck,
What?
we're all here trying to solve problems together.
Really?
We are.
You know, I don't like it. I'm not going to take that much more.
But Chuck, you have to agree that the paint's peeling, right?
Well, yeah,
So we just need to put a plan together.
I'll fix it next year.
Well, let's try to do a little sooner than that, shall
What
we?
do you mean?
Like within 30 days?
What?
It's just a little bit of paint. You can do that.
Oh, come on. 30 days? I can't get that matched up in that period of time. What's wrong with you?
Well, not every homeowner gets as angry as Chuck here. A lot of them, they get the courtesy letter, and the first part seems pretty nice. But then they read the rest of it, and it says something like, you're in violation of CC&R, Article 8, Section 3.
CC&R?
It's the rules you're supposed to follow.
Oh, all right.
And it requires you to keep your home maintained, and that's the issue
I
here.
do maintain my home.
And the problem then is it gets a little worse, Chuck, because the next thing it says is that you've got to do this in 14 days.
What?
And if you don't, you have to come to a hearing.
I suppose you're going to
And
tell me.
And you know what? At that hearing, what can happen?
What?
We can fine you.
What?
And we can stop you from using the pool, because those are the penalties that we apply if you don't take
Who puts those penalties on me?
the board of directors.
Oh, the board. I see.
So now you've got this letter. Now, if you weren't mad before,
Yeah, I am.
you're really mad now,
Yeah.
right?
I'm not only mad, I'm embarrassed.
You're
by the whole
embarrassed.
situation.
And I can see that because, you know, you're in violation, and as you said before, you know, who knows about this? So we have to, you know, we have to look at all the situation.
Well, you know, let's say I'm just not willing to correct it in the 30 days or 15 or whatever the so-called rules tell me. What are you going to do about that?
We're going to call you to a hearing
What?
in front of our board of directors, and they're going to listen to what you have to say and what the manager has to say and make a decision, and you might find yourself in being fined.
You mean that sounds like a tribunal to me? Is that what it would be?
it is. That's
Well, I don't want to do that. I guess I won't. I'll fix it, okay?
I hope you will, because there's no reason, you know, we're working together on this. We're partners. Let's make
Yeah,
this work.
we are neighbors. I forgot about that. Okay.
Now, the next slide I'm going to ask you to do, because people don't always arrive at the meeting angry. Some of them arrive perfectly happy, and then something happens, it seems like, and they get mad really quickly. Can you talk about that?
Well,
How'd that
yeah,
happen? So
I
you,
guess-
you seem to know about being angry, so tell us about it.
Well, actually, I'm not as angry as I appear at times, but I do know what you mean. I mean, my experience on the board says a lot of times they come to a meeting and they're fine, they have some little issue, let's say like landscaping or something, you know, and they bring it before the board, but, you know, we as the board know we can't do anything about it. You know what happens then? They start to get upset, maybe a little bit angry with us. And,
Why can't you do anything about it?
well, because maybe there are extenuating circumstances that we're aware of that they don't know. I mean, we just got to be a little careful how we handle it. We want to be sure that they understand we're trying to work with them. And we do that in a lot of ways, but the thing that we have to be careful about as a board member is that when we listen to them, we want to be sure that we look at them. We want to be sure that we aren't talking down to them so that they know that we're, you know, we're really listening.
Because it shows.
Yeah,
right?
that's
If you
right.
do that, it shows, right?
And we don't want them to get the idea that, well, let's get on with this meeting, you know, this is kind of, let's get it over with and get out of here. Attitude. Attitude really shows. You know,
So you've done all that, you listened to them, you looked in their face, you've been courteous,
Yeah.
and they still are mad. What do you do?
well, you know, we still have to pay attention to what they say. We cannot allow ourselves to be pulled into that situation of antagonism, back and forth. So we have to listen to their concerns. Now, you know, maybe they just want to really be heard. I think in most times in cases, that's exactly what it is. I mean, we're listening to each other right now, and that's what they expect. So, you know, they're our neighbor, and they need to be treated that way. Well, you know, sometimes people just want to be angry, and you know what? Sorry about that. Can't help it, right?
But you know, we've been talking about homeowners.
Yeah, that's true. Well,
What about board members? They arrive angry. They become angry in meetings. It happens.
I never get angry in a meeting.
Really?
No, look at this face. You think I could get angry?
Maybe.
Could
You might.
Yeah.
Many of us, board members, we don't have any training. We just get the job because people voted for us and we made the decision to run. And you don't know how to handle difficult situations. You've not been in this situation before, whereas a guy like you comes in and is all upset.
What?
And you know, most of us, our only real experience with dispute resolution, conflict resolution, is breaking up our kids when they're fighting.
That's true. Good point. Never thought about that.
So it doesn't work as well in an HOA.
Oh, that's right.
Doesn't
Good
work.
idea. Yes.
And too few of us really, as board members, understand the rules and the laws that govern our activities and how an HOA has to be run.
Oh, back to those rules again. I understand it. So they're there to really
To guide
Yes.
and direct the association.
I get it. I understand that more now. All right.
And you know, we don't understand homeowners' rights. Homeowners have rights, and sometimes as board members we think, well, we're in charge, so we can do what we want.
And if we don't understand the rules, we can't expect them really to understand.
That's right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Got it.
So if we don't understand the rules, we may also feel like we're responsible to defend the association. The association has made a decision, you know, 2 months ago to do something, and now there's an issue with a homeowner, and we have to listen to what the homeowner has to say, listen to what the manager has to say, and try to find a solution one way or the other, whether they're right or they're wrong. We don't have to defend what the association did. We can actually say, you know what, that's not really a violation. You know, that's minor. That shouldn't be considered a violation. It's not criticizing the manager, it's just saying that in this case, this particular violation isn't a big deal.
Okay, so, but what if we're kind of getting the vibe that we feel a little bit frightened and threatened by this so-called homeowner that's got a problem with us, okay? So what if I just want to ignore it and run away? Huh? Can I do that?
Not so easy, is it?
No, and you can't run away from it, can you?
You're in a hearing, and you get that fight or flight instinct that kicks in, and since you can't run away, what do you want to do? You want to get mad.
You want to get mad, and does that work? No.
No, it does not work. You just basically create more anger in the meeting.
Is that kind of like fighting fire with fire sometimes?
And who gets burned? Everybody.
Everybody gets burned. Just makes things worse, right?
So, you know, no matter what happens in the meeting, no matter how you might feel, be courteous, be respectful. That's what we need to do.
Okay, so, you know, that kind of says it all for this segment. So let's move on to the second segment and see how we can absolutely present a friendly tone and make the temperature of the meeting great.
Sounds
Okay.
good. Sounds good. We'll see you when you come back.
See you in a minute. Okay, Greg, you know, in the first segment we talked about why people get mad. So now in this second segment, let's talk about the tone in the meeting and how we can get the temperature down to a nice, enjoyable level.
That's more important than people might think, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's very important. So if I was to come into a meeting, tell me what you would do for me and just make me feel comfortable. Can you do that?
Well, people coming in are usually tense. You're not coming into a meeting that they're comfortable with.
Well, I've never been to one before, so you know, what do I expect?
So the first thing you do is put your hand out and welcome. And say
Oh,
hi.
hi, Greg.
I'm Greg.
Chuck.
Chuck. Good,
It's
Chuck.
my
Good to meet
first
you.
meeting. I've never been there
Welcome
before.
to the meeting.
Okay, can
Have a seat. We're going to be starting in just a minute.
just anywhere over there?
Well, it depends on what kind of meeting it is, and we'll get into that later. But,
All right.
But a smile and a handshake is a great thing to start with, and then whenever possible during the meeting, use people's first names.
That's a good idea.
Because you start, Mrs. Smith and Mr. Jones and so forth, it sounds like you're not friendly with them, even though they're your neighbors.
Okay, so it just kind of makes them feel more at ease.
Yep, use the first
Okay,
name.
right.
You're trying to disarm a tense, fearful homeowner, and that will help a lot.
And I was tense and fearful when I came to this meeting tonight, but you've made me feel a lot better already. I
Good,
like that.
good.
Thank you.
And when people are there visiting a board meeting, there's board members there, there's a manager there might be an inspector there could be some vendors there, or it could be your attorneys there. Make introductions so people know who everybody is.
So in other words, if everybody knows everybody, or at least has an idea, then it's, they feel like you're being nice, you're treating them right.
And they know
Much
why they're
easier.
there, they know what their role is.
All right, okay.
So it's a lot harder to be angry at someone if they're nice to you. It just is.
Okay.
So that's the idea. Act like a neighbor. When an owner's speaking, the first thing you do is make sure you're looking at him.
Oh, you don't want me looking over here
Because
somewhere, huh?
Yeah,
Oh,
he's your
okay,
neighbor.
I got it.
He's your neighbor.
All right.
And if he's talking, he came to the meeting to talk to you, if you're a board member. So be nice to him, treat him like a neighbor, look at him. Don't roll your eyes. Sometimes people are saying stuff that you know is bogus. It's just not right.
I just can't believe I
They
heard
don't
that.
know it.
I know.
Exactly.
Okay.
And if you don't look at them, and if you don't make expressions that are disdainful and make people feel like you're not listening to them or you don't care about what they're saying, they're going to be a lot more appreciative of your...
You don't want me sitting there looking like this, huh?
No rolling of the eyes, no...
What if I'm like this going, oh, I wish this was over?
That's probably how you feel,
Oh, I see.
but it's not exactly what you should be saying.
right.
And that should not be the way you act. And the other thing is, if you have a homeowner forum, you ever have those in your meetings at the start and the end of the meetings?
Homeowner, oh, I think
Where
I
they
read
get to
something.
speak, right? They get to speak.
Oh, is that like something in the beginning of a meeting?
At the beginning of the meeting, you can speak on things on the agenda. At the end, you can speak on things that aren't.
Oh,
But the point that I'm going to make here is that all too often, board members, again, not realizing how it's going to sound, say something like, okay, you got 3 minutes.
well, what's wrong with that?
Well, it doesn't sound very nice, does it?
Well, I don't think it's very nice being here, but I'm beginning to understand.
Yeah,
Okay.
there you go.
right.
So in a friendly tone, you can apologize, that you have a busy schedule and that you have to limit speakers to 3 minutes or 4 minutes or 2 minutes, depending upon how many speakers and how much time.
Why is that? Why 3 minutes?
Because if you don't limit the time, you might be there till midnight.
Is that a rule?
Well, setting the time is a rule. The state law, in fact, says it's a
Oh,
rule.
the state sets that out.
They determine that you can set a time limit.
Okay,
But
all
you're the
right.
one who sets the amount of time.
Okay, I got it. All right. So what if we know there are some people in the meeting that have an agenda item and they want to talk about it, but they don't want to wait through the whole meeting and get up and talk? So is there anything we can do about that?
Well, there is, and I think we're going to bring that up in just a minute.
Okay, think so?
But setting the tone happens most importantly, I think, in a hearing, because things are already tense, aren't they?
They can be.
Have you had that experience?
Oh yeah, I actually had to go through a hearing once, and I didn't understand the time. That was before I was a board member. And they actually explained to me that they are board members first, they're volunteers, and they're actually there to try to help me in the community. And I didn't really understand that, to be honest with you. But after they said that, I did that. They explained to me, for instance, that they don't write violations, they don't do inspections. You know who does that? Community manager, or their inspectors do that type of thing.
Yep.
And I realized that what they're telling me is that as a board member, they're not getting paid for what they do. The community manager does, and the community manager has training as their inspectors do. So I started to see where they're coming from.
Well, it's a good point, because I think generally a lot of board members don't have enough training
That's
to
true.
do inspections, to send out letters and so forth. It's not their role.
Well, yes, and actually the board is there to make financial decisions for the community and provide guidance actually to the
Policies.
community managers and policies so that they can follow those and they run the community the way they're supposed to. Now, that's the way I understand it.
So you're
anywhere.
saying the board members don't run the association?
That's true, they don't. You know, the day-by-day stuff goes on, that's what the community manager is there to do.
So they take that responsibility.
They take that responsibility, you know?
But you provide the overall direction.
Yeah, that's because our rules and our policies kind of define that for them. So I think that's what we need to remember a lot of times, okay? Actually, as the board, we are an unbiased panel of basically experts if we know the rules and the policies right.
Yep.
So we consider what the manager does,
But
what the
unbiased
homeowner does.
is the important thing.
Yes,
You're a completely unbiased panel. You got to listen
we have to listen.
and hear what they have to say.
And we got to listen to both sides because we, as that panel, have to decide what's right, what's wrong, is this really something we're concerned about? So we got to listen to both sides. And then we come to a decision or conclusion that I think satisfies everybody, if we can do that.
If you can.
Yeah,
Sometimes they're just in violation.
that's true.
Or sometimes, you know, that isn't really a violation.
And
Now
sometimes,
that we looked at it, it's not really we're going to, you know, it's not going to call that a violation in our community.
that's true.
So by working together, we can solve problems. I think that's the goal of a hearing, is not necessarily to punish someone or anything. It's find the truth, find what's right, and do what's best for the community.
Okay, I
Does
get
that sound
it.
right?
Yep, good deal. So, when
More
some-
setting the tone? Really?
Well, you know, there's a lot to this, more than
Apparently
you would
there
think.
is.
Yeah. It took me a while to learn that I have to really, really be careful, and I have to listen when someone's talking in a meeting. When someone's speaking to me, I have to listen to them, and I don't want to be, oh, here, over there, this and that, not paying attention.
Don't shake your
because-
head when they're
Don't
talking?
shake my head.
No?
Don't look around. You know, I need to look at the homeowner when they're talking, if they're talking to me as a board member, and listen to them. I can't let them know that I'm bored. I might be, but I cannot let them know that.
When they're speaking, though, I mean, what do you do when they're speaking and they're saying stuff that just isn't right?
Well, you got to wait till they're done.
Really?
Yes.
You let them spout that stuff?
Let them spout it out, and then
Right.
you, if you know that they're wrong, need to point out to them what the specifics are. Okay?
After they're done speaking?
After they're done speaking.
So then it's
Don't-
your turn.
That's my turn.
All right.
And you got to remind them that I didn't interrupt you, so don't you interrupt me while I address your issue, okay? It's important, because if we don't, you know what happens?
What?
An argument ensues.
So you
Guess
just go back
what?
and forth and back
Back
and
and forth, you never solve anything. Just goes on and on and on. Can't let that happen. So remind them, hey, I didn't interrupt you, you don't interrupt me.
But if you respond to his issues,
That's okay.
then he knows what? That you were
Well,
listening to him,
He knows that I heard him.
even if you respond negatively.
Well, you know, sometimes you just can't agree on certain things, but that's okay. You know, you don't let them know.
But if you can't do what the person wants, there's a reason.
That's true.
And you need to explain the reason, right? I mean, it could be the law, could be the CC&Rs, the rules, or
Could be money constraints. You don't
could
know.
be there's nothing in the budget
That's
for
right.
it, right?
So you got any ideas where people have brought problems up, you know, and then you actually come to a solution that maybe wasn't what they expected?
Well, I've got a couple.
Oh,
actually.
really?
Yeah, they're kind of interesting.
Well, kind of enlighten me, will you, please? All right.
I was in a situation we had a guy come to the meeting and he was red-faced angry, just spitting mad, like the picture at the very front of
Like this?
Yes.
Ah.
Only worse. He
Worse.
was just jumping up and down angry. And the issue was he had a couple trash cans in front of his house in a little recessed area that was sort of cut out of his
Oh,
house.
imagine that.
And
yeah.
turns out you could see it from the street, which is what?
Well, that's a violation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So he was bound to determine he was not going to put a screen up across there, and he was going to leave them there no matter what.
So I guess you solved that okay, huh?
Actually, we came up with an alternative to finding that
Oh.
you'd be surprised, he actually accepted. And we asked him, would you, I know you don't want to fence the area in, right? We understand that, but would you be willing to plant some large shrubs in front of that area so that it's not visible from the street?
Great idea.
And we were kind of surprised, we expected him, because he was so angry, to say no. He agreed.
Really? Well, that's great.
But that's not the best part of the story.
Oh.
The next day, he calls the president, apologizes for his behavior,
Wow, that's great.
and thanked the board for their help.
Great example.
So that's
of
a
how-
good outcome. If we had fined him, we could have just said, look, you're in violation, you're fined.
All right.
And
so
we would eventually probably got it taken care of, but we wouldn't have had a happy outcome.
That's true. So, okay, that's one. You got any other things?
The other one
that
is
I can-
a situation that some of you may have had with a real estate investor, buys a home, fixes it up, and he comes to the Architectural Review Committee, or
What?
ARC.
ARC. Is
Yeah.
that's not like, okay.
Not the Ark of the Covenants, it's the
I got it,
Architectural Review
ARC.
Committee.
Okay.
And he applies for permission to paint his roof.
Paint
It's a
his
tile
roof?
It's a tile roof.
Painting a tile roof?
wanted
That's
to
not a
paint
good
tile.
idea.
Well, you know why?
Why?
Because the paint can peel, and then you've got something that looks terrible, and it's a maintenance nightmare. And we know that this is a real estate investor who's going to sell the house to a homeowner who's going to be stuck with this problem.
Huh. Not a good
Right?
idea. No.
So he was denied, and he came to the board for a hearing to appeal that decision.
Okay. So, well, wait a minute. You say he came to the board to appeal a decision, and you told him not to do it?
Well, we had that option.
I don't understand, I guess.
But we found out in the hearing that he'd already started painting the roof. He got half of it painted.
But you told him not to do it.
Well, he didn't get the letter, he said.
Oh, that sounds familiar.
You heard that
the
before?
letter got lost in the mail.
Never saw
I
it.
got it. Okay.
He got a
Yep.
cease and desist order, but it didn't arrive. You know
Yeah.
how that happens. Anyway,
So what'd you do?
so he was, again, appealing it. It's kind of impossible to remove paint off of a tile roof.
Have you ever tried?
No, but I've heard people talk about it.
It is true.
not
It's hard to
doing
get it
It's
off.
not gonna
I know.
happen.
Yep, you're right.
And it's also pretty hard, but possible legally, to force them to redo the roof.
Ooh, not a good idea.
So neither of those two outcomes was the best. So we wanted to give compromise a shot, just like the previous situation. Said he owns a real estate investment company, and he also owns a small construction company. So what we ask is, okay, if you think this is so safe and it's not a risk, will you warrant that roof? Your company, on your license, warrant that roof?
I bet he didn't do that, though, did he?
No, he did. He did.
He did?
After struggling for a while,
Wow.
he said yes.
Okay.
So the point that we're making here, I think, is that the idea is to be non-threatening, try to find solutions that work, that can work, and try to find a way around just fining. Because fining is, once you fine, then what do you do next? There's nothing left to do.
Left. So what you're telling me is that a fine, I have always understood it, that you don't want to fine, you just want them to comply in some way, correct?
Yeah, that's the only real weapon you have,
Okay.
is to fine. That forces compliance, but you're
That's
after
true.
compliance, not the money.
So I guess you're telling me, and I'm getting the idea, that the friendly tone and the alternate solutions here worked like a charm.
They can.
And you had a much happier community.
You have
right?
to try.
Yeah,
you
well,
may not
you
succeed,
did.
but you have to try.
Yep. So let me talk a little bit about hearings, because I'm going to expand. I told you I was at a hearing. Well, you know, I found out that what they did in the hearing was they invited me to come and sit at the table.
Exactly.
Right with them. And you know, I went, wow, this is pretty good, because now I have my neighbors who are board members, you know. There's the community manager there. And we were like peers.
Yep.
And it made me feel a lot better.
That's the way to
you
do
know?
it. That's the way to do it.
And they reminded me that we were neighbors there. So it was a good feeling to sit there with them in a hearing.
Because if
But-
you have to sit back as though you're not part of the team and you have to speak to them, then they feel like
Yeah.
they're not part of the team, actually,
That's
and that
true.
they're not part of solving the problem, and they're just, pleading for their case.
Okay, so that was a hearing, but is that different than a board meeting? I think it is, if I remember
it's
correctly.
totally different.
Totally.
Totally different.
All
In
right.
that case, what is best is to seat all of the members who are attending, not the board, but the visitors,
Okay.
separate from the board, but facing the board.
Okay, I get it.
Okay,
so
so they
they're
can see
over
the
there
board.
and
They
they're
can see the
looking
board.
at me or us, right? I
And
got
then
it.
when you have your as we said earlier, your forum, your homeowners forum,
Yes.
you invite them up one at a time to approach the board and speak to the board.
Okay.
They're not speaking to the members, they're speaking to the board.
So they can just speak forever, right?
No.
They can't?
You're back to finding a better way to say you have 3 minutes.
Oh, 3 minutes again. Wow.
Yep. Well, otherwise, what do you have?
Well, you've got chaos, probably.
You
yes.
You get a long diatribe, and then you don't have time for that. Then you have to cut somebody off.
Yeah, and we don't want to do that.
It's hard to do that if you haven't told them they have a limit.
All right, so now I understand that, but now I want to speak. I'm a board member, so how do I handle that?
Well, you should respond to, if you can, you should respond to the member. If they've got a question or a problem, if they've introduced, they're complaining about something.
Okay.
It's good to respond. People want to know you heard them. If you don't respond, and I've seen this happen, thank you for your comments.
Yeah.
Well, how do you feel after that?
Sure.
You know,
You
so
weren't
if you can
listening very well.
Yeah, or you didn't want to listen.
True.
So once the board meeting starts, the business of the board meeting, the homeowner forum's over. Now we're in the board meeting. We're going through the agenda.
Because that's what a board meeting does, right?
That's the business of the board meeting.
the board meeting. All right.
When you're a board member at that table, you look at the other board member
Like I'm looking at you right now.
or the manager.
Okay.
You do not look at the members sitting out in the audience, because if you do,
Why?
what do you think they're going to do?
Oh, here we go. Another discussion, and that might lead to what?
And they can't participate anyway
Yeah.
legally. So why encourage them to speak and then have to discourage them back?
Okay.
So don't look at them.
All right. So what if we don't have a very big meeting? I've heard that happens in some associations. They don't have a lot of people?
Yeah, you have some flexibility. If you're the chair of the meeting, you can say, you know, we have a light schedule, small audience.
So you mean the 3 minutes we could
We
just
could
kind
say,
of let that go?
we give
All
you
right.
5 minutes. Or, you
All right.
know, how much time do you want to
I
speak?
like that. All
'Cause
right.
You may need that.
Okay.
You may also have some members who can actually assist your business that you're doing. Maybe you have a homeowner who is a licensed contractor. You have a homeowner who is an expert in some field that you're considering actions. Now, you can't take their advice directly,
Okay.
because they're not, necessarily contracted with you. But you can listen to what they have to say. They may have some good suggestions.
So we could actually let them...
Let them speak, yeah.
let
You
their
can ask
items
them
be heard?
questions. Ask them questions.
Okay.
Of course.
Like that.
So that's one of the things you can do.
Okay. So,
And make them feel like they're appreciated, but understand that this is a special situation.
all right. So now we've covered hearings.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about board meetings. Are there any other meetings that we need to be aware of?
The other meetings tend to be meetings for members.
What's
membership
the
meetings.
difference?
And membership meeting, board meetings, that's the board's business. And
Okay.
membership meeting, it's the membership's business. And the
So?
first order of business is homeowners can speak,
Really? All of them get a chance?
given time limits.
Oh,
Again,
are
yes.
we back to kind of that
You have to,
Oh.
unless you want to be there till midnight, and you might not have the
the
room
old
till midnight.
3-minute thing again? I got it.
Yep.
All right. Okay.
But you got to treat it very differently than a board meeting, because
Okay.
now you're not going to have the board up there doing their business and homeowners watching.
Well,
You're
give me
go-
some examples of members' meetings, just so I understand.
Well, what kind of meetings might you have? You might have a budget ratification meeting, believe it or
okay.
not,
Yeah, I understand.
which is usually a very short meeting, but it's a members meeting.
Okay.
You might have a regular annual membership meeting that you have, which is typically what people have every
Okay.
year, to go through, and the board will introduce the budget or how the community's doing, current events,
State of the community.
plans in
Got
the
it.
future, and so
All
forth.
right.
Yep. And then you might also have a meeting, a special meeting, because you got some problem or some issue to deal with in the community
All right. So
that may require the board, the members to actually vote on
I
something.
get the idea there. So, but now all these people are talking. So, and even if you limit them, I mean, can you you let them speak right all the way through? I mean, can we interrupt them this time? It's a members meeting. You know, it's going to go on forever if we don't. I mean, is that rule still there?
I think you follow kind of the same rules in that if you've got a 3-minute time setting, you let them speak and you don't interrupt them.
Okay.
And don't let anybody interrupt them. If you're the chair of a meeting, you can't let other people start talking over top of the person who's talking.
I see.
You have to let them finish, and you don't interrupt them. And then you may, as the chair or one of the board members, say, I'd just like to respond to that.
Okay.
And you can.
So what if
Same rules,
what if somebody in the audience wants to just jump right on there?
one at a time.
Oh, I get it.
One at a time.
Okay.
The chair has to recognize them, one at a time. We're going to speak on the same subject until the subject's exhausted. The original speaker doesn't get to speak until everybody who wants to speak on the topic wishes to do so. or
Okay,
has done
I
so.
got it. And then we can address issues and maybe do something, and maybe we can't. So what if we don't have an answer? You know,
Well-
what if we just can't figure it out right then? What do we do?
Somebody needs to take down the information
And-
about the questioner and the question.
And who might that be?
And it's often the manager or an assistant, or it could be a board member. It depends on your community.
Okay, so now we've got that. So what do we do with the question? I mean,
Well,
the meeting's
the
over.
most important thing is you have to respond.
Oh.
If you say in a meeting, we'll let you know, and you don't, well, they're going to look at you like, okay, fine. Yeah,
Can I just call them up on the phone?
Nope.
Well,
Well, put it in writing.
put it in writing. Oh, I
They
got
ask
it.
you a question.
Okay.
Other people it may be something you put in the newsletter if it's that kind of a question that homeowners might need to know.
Well, you know, I kind of get the idea about the tone now. So that kind of ends our session on the tone in the meeting. We'll be back shortly, and we're going to tell you some things, or we hope that when things don't work right, we'll give you some clues. We'll be right back. Well, in the first two segments today, we have actually covered why people get mad. And then we were in the second segment, we were trying to set the right tone. In the third segment now, we're going to have some ideas on how we avoid making things worse as a board member when nothing else seems to work. So without any further delay here, let's look at some of those reasons, okay?
Well, let's look at the first thing, that there are some laws actually that, while they're a little difficult to enforce, can be a cautionary tool in a meeting to make people feel like, oh, wait a minute, maybe I shouldn't be doing this.
Laws? What kind of
And
laws?
these are state laws, actually.
State
They're called,
laws.
actually called statutes.
Oh,
And I'll just read off what it says. It makes it a misdemeanor to engage in conduct which would cause harm, emotional distress, or apprehension of harm or stress, or creates a hostile environment. This applies to everybody in the room.
what do you mean by that?
It means that if you're the president of the association and you start intimidating somebody, you're violating the law. If you are a homeowner doing that, you're violating the law. If you're anybody in that meeting,
Well, does that
is-
apply to a manager?
applies to the manager, anybody there.
Oh,
And the idea is that, you know, this can be something that if you've got homeowners who are a little excited and agitated, they can realize, well, I got to, you know, calm down a little bit here because I don't want to do something that's going to be
okay.
against the law.
So is that the famous law I keep hearing about referred to as the bullying law?
It's intended to stop bullying, yes.
I think that was a pretty new law, wasn't
It was
it?
2 years ago,
2 years ago.
in
Wow.
2013.
And so the state legislature actually passed that law.
They did, and another was passed previously to that, quite some time ago, NRS 203, another state statute, which just makes it a misdemeanor to disturb any assembly or meeting.
Okay.
And again, it applies to everybody there. So again, this is a violation of the criminal law.
All right.
Now, it's pretty broad in its words, right? I
So
mean,
can you think we can enforce something like that?
in some cases.
Really?
It's difficult to enforce, but it's much better, really. You're not trying to get somebody arrested. You're trying to change their behavior. And the goal is to put them on notice that there are laws that address people's behavior in meetings, and these are two of them.
So we have to comply as well as they
That's
have
number
to
one.
comply.
If you're
All right.
misbehaving, you can't exactly hold somebody else accountable for misbehaving.
So I don't want to threaten them?
I would not.
I don't want to intimidate them?
Nope.
Okay. And you don't do the same, right?
That's exactly right.
All right.
I'll be a
Okay.
good boy.
All right. Good.
So the next item, I'll let you address this one. How do board members behave in a meeting? I mean, not
Oh.
talking about bullying necessarily, but just what's the right way to behave?
Well, we've got to be really careful. We don't make things worse as a
Exactly.
board member, you know? When we are addressing someone in a meeting, and we have to be sure that we have a respectful, a courteous tone. You know, a lot of times it's hard to cover up the fact that maybe you don't like him or her, but you got to do that. Don't ever let them feel like you don't like them, because if you do, then we're back to that bullying problem, you know? You got to be friendly, smile at them. Even though I might not like you, I'm going to smile at you. I'm going to treat you with kindness,
I
because we
appreciate
have
that.
to do that, even if they don't. Don't let them know. You know, that we have to remind them occasionally that we're board members, we work for them, the owners, okay?
Yeah,
It's
but you're in
not-
charge.
Yeah, but it's not the other way around. We are there to help them, to work for them, you know, and
So you make the rules, you punish people, you fine people, and you're saying you work for them?
we do. We
So
work for the owners.
that means when you do those things, you got to keep that in mind.
You do. And you know, one of the worst things you can probably do in a board meeting is argue with somebody. Because you know what happens? Who wins?
Actually, nobody,
Who loses?
everybody.
Everybody. So that's something you got to stay away from. Another problem I've noticed in meetings is a lot of people like to bring up old past history. Things that
my
happened
gosh.
maybe a year, 2 years ago, maybe 6 months ago.
And they're still upset about it.
They're still upset, but you know what? Don't go there. Don't let them do that because you waste time. That problem's probably been fixed if it's fixable. There's no sense wasting any more time on it. You know, just stick to what's going on in that meeting. You have an agenda. Follow it. It really, really helps, I tell you. You know, even if you disagree, you know, there are times that you can show them that you're empathetic with them. You know, maybe they don't understand the problem. Maybe you understand the problem better. I don't know. But, you know, you got to show them that you really do care about their problem.
Yeah, sometimes people are well-meaning people that the rules just happen to cause them difficulty for some particular reason.
And you don't want them to get the idea that you're picking on them.
Right.
You know, because a lot of people will, unless you're careful.
Unless you
Yeah.
do what they want.
That's right. So, you know, you one time said to me, you had a great idea, a question that sometimes you can ask people when they have problems, and I can't remember what that was exactly. Can you refresh me?
It's kind of simple, actually. You just ask the person, how can we help you solve your problem?
Oh, yeah, that's right. I remember now.
You know, it's,
okay.
It puts them, I'm not saying on the defensive, but it puts them in the position of trying to help solve the problem as opposed to just being angry.
Okay. But you know, even with all that being said, homeowners sometimes get so angry, they almost become irrational. I mean, to the point of, wow, that's a little scary.
Which is why we're here today.
Yes, that's it. So, do we remind them that we're adults? We should act like adults?
Well, I think we just
you
need
know,
to be the adults in the room if we can.
be courteous to them.
If you set an example,
Yeah.
it might be, it might rub off on them.
Yeah, yeah.
Telling them that they're acting like a child is probably not the best idea, though.
Well, no, I wouldn't say that, but you know.
But if you act like the adult in the room, I think it does set an example for everybody.
Yeah. So, you know, it's hard not to interrupt the speaker. It really is.
It really is.
You've got to really have control of that. You've got to let him, her finish, whatever their problem is, because they want to be heard. I cannot stress that enough. They want to be heard.
They want to be heard.
You know?
But when you talk, when you respond,
Yeah, well, it's the same
do
thing.
not let this person you're responding to interrupt you.
Just like the rules we talked about before, kind of.
It turns into an argument, and we said before, what happens with arguments is nothing good.
Nothing good. You'd never get to where you are. So we're right back to the basic fact. We want to stick to what we're talking about, the fact, and not the attitude that's displayed.
Just ignore their attitude.
Ignore it. I know it's a little tough to do, but you can. Okay?
Okay?
So let me ask you. Now, we have tenants and renters in our community, but you know, they don't have rights, do they?
Well, a lot of people think we shouldn't even care about tenants because they're not owners.
I think that's a mistake, don't you?
I think it is because they're part of your community. They live there, and although they don't pay assessments, they pay the rent that pays the assessments.
Oh, yeah.
And they have most of the, surprisingly, a lot of board members don't think this, they have most of the same rights as a homeowner.
They do.
They can't vote, but they can do most of the activities. They can use the common areas generally. They have all the same rights as an owner, generally speaking.
Okay, so again, we're right back to what we talked about previously, that we're trying to come up with some sort of an alternative or compromise to help this settle down a little bit and make the meeting a little easier to conduct and to get some understanding and let them know we're reasonable people.
You're trying to be
are.
reasonable.
We're board members, you know, and we got to let them know that. And, you know,
If
hopefully
you try
they're
to be
gonna follow.
reasonable, if you show them you're being reasonable, they're much more likely to be reasonable.
That's true. They will. But again, we don't necessarily want to find them, do we?
We would like to not have to find them.
Yeah, we're
If
looking for
if we
compliance.
determine that they're in
Yeah.
violation, right? If they're actually in violation and they refuse to do anything about it, you're kind of left with only one alternative, and that's fining, and hopefully that solves the problem. It may take time.
Kind of a last resort thing to do, I guess, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But then, you know, sometimes people just want to be angry. They do. That's the way it is, you know. So again, we're back to being adults in the room.
Some people just don't, are going to be angry because they're not getting their way.
So
some people are used to getting their way.
Can
So
we
that can be a
appeal
problem.
to their better side? How do we do that?
We hope so. Well, you talk to them in a sincere and friendly tone, and there's the kind of things you can say are,
Okay.
you know, we're here trying to help you, but we need your help too. So work with us.
Okay.
We're not your enemy. We're homeowners like you. We're volunteering our time to help our community, and we don't get paid for it. We're glad to do it, but we need your help.
You know, that's something I think a lot of homeowners don't understand. We're on the board. I think they think we get paid. It's something to remind them of. Yeah.
I need to raise that.
Yes, you do. So do
So
I.
you can tell them, you know, please treat us like your neighbor. Let us help.
Yep.
We are your neighbor. We've treated you respectfully.
Hopefully,
Please
yes.
respond
Yeah.
in kind. You know,
Yeah.
please do the same. We can disagree, but there's no reason to be disagreeable.
I agree.
We're neighbors.
I agree to disagree.
And
Okay.
you also can resort to, you know, the bully disruption bills. I think it's, if you know you're going to have a meeting that might be disruptive, have that information copied on and attached to the agenda. So everybody there knows that this is the law.
Great idea.
And, you know,
yeah.
and
Good
that they
idea.
understand criminal charges can apply.
Sure. Yeah.
And, you know, finally, you tell them, you know, if you can't change your attitude and be respectful to your people who are in the room, you will have to leave.
Ooh.
And then, cross your fingers.
And then,
You might get lucky.
and what would happen?
It often works.
Well.
And they'll calm down. Or they'll leave.
Oh,
Either way, your meeting just got a lot better,
great.
right?
I feel better already. Yeah, I do.
Either way.
All right, but okay, so I'll give you that. But what if they don't leave? What if, let's say, what if they're getting a little bit more out of hand and they almost get in your face, but then they back off? I mean, what alternative do we have there?
Well, if it continues to be hostile, intimidating, disruptive, you have to tell them to leave. They have to leave the meeting.
Really?
And if they refuse, you have a couple options. You can recess the meeting for 30 minutes or an hour, or you can reschedule the meeting for another time.
Okay.
And that you hope that when you come back in session that person either doesn't come back or that they've calmed down.
Okay.
The other option is if you in the room feel truly threatened, because there are people who will get right in your face and start doing this to you.
You wouldn't
and
do that.
I wouldn't do that because you're bigger than I am.
Okay.
But if there are some people who do make people not just uncomfortable, but fearful. When that happens, I would suggest you ask all of the board members to dial 911 at the same time and report this threatening, fearful behavior. And you'd be surprised. You get a bunch of people calling, expressing the same problem. You can get the Metro to come out and address the problem. Also, it's intimidating the person who now realizes you're willing to do, this is the nuclear option, right?
So you really are serious about what's
You're
going on.
serious about it, right?
Yeah. Well, I think that about concludes what we want to talk about, how to handle a disruptive member in a meeting. So that's the end of this segment, and we'll be back shortly, and we'll give you some other useful resources. So don't go away. Okay, so a brief recap. You know, in the first segment today, we did why people get mad. We looked at that. Then we looked at how the tone affects things in a meeting. And we talked about how we can avoid angering residents. So in the last segment, we're going to give you some other solutions and helpful information. So
Good.
Greg, with that said,
Let's
take
get
it
started.
away.
Let's get started. You know, we would be remiss if we ignored the fact that there are some board members that have mistreated their residents.
Oh,
It
no.
actually happens.
Really?
And we all know they exist. And you know what? They're the ones, those are the people who give all of us board members a bad name.
You mean sometimes we make the news because we've been bad board members?
Well, and you're saying we.
Well,
Yes,
okay.
there are some bad
so
board
I've been a
members.
bad board member then. I'll give you that. Okay.
But they are the ones that get on the news. Yes, you're right. They're the ones that get called before the commission for common interest communities and get punished and penalized, and we all get painted with that brush to some extent.
So we get that bad name because
do.
we have a few bad board members.
There
Okay.
are bad board members.
Few.
So homeowners and board members, they got to understand that just because I don't agree with you, doesn't mean that I am in any way mistreating you.
That's a tough one, isn't it?
And some people don't see the distinction, but it's important that just because we're not agreeing doesn't mean we don't, somebody's mistreating another.
So what would be some ideas that people would think they were being mistreated?
I mean, real abuse,
Yeah.
unequal treatment, not treating two different homeowners the same
All right.
would be one. Intimidation tactics. You know, a board member calls the manager and says, this homeowner has, I noticed, four violations on his property, write that up.
Wow.
That's intimidation tactics, and it may well be unequal treatment
Okay.
as well. Not enforcing the rules against your friend. Persecution, where you keep going after somebody over and over and over and picking on them because you don't like them.
What if I yell at you?
That's the worst. because
Really?
Now you're harassing.
Oh.
Now you're harassing someone
That would be
and
bad.
trying to intimidate somebody
Yeah.
because you have the power, you're in a power position, that you're governed by the laws of the state of Nevada,
Okay.
you're governed by your CC&Rs. And you
Our
can be-
what?
Our rules.
Oh,
Rules,
okay, I got it.
You need to
I
learn
got
that.
it. I wish I could remember.
CC&Rs, that's rules.
CC&Rs rules, got it.
You have to follow them, and if you don't, you can actually be called before the Commission on Common Interest Communities, and they have some pretty serious penalties. They can fine you, they can make you leave the board. It's pretty serious.
So you're telling me that some homeowners have actually been singled out by boards and that some residents don't get treated the same?
Yep.
You're kidding me. And
It happens.
well, that's got to be bordering almost on bullying stuff, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Huh? So
it can be. It can
wow.
be.
So
Can
so
be.
if that happens, tell me again. I think I forgot what the board member. What
If
can
you're
you
a
do?
board member,
Yeah.
let's say that we're both on the board together, and
Yes.
you are mistreating a homeowner who's in for a hearing or something like that. You're being a real jerk.
I mean, this person over there doesn't know what's going on anyway, and I don't have time to listen to it. So why'd you bring that complaint to me? That type of thing,
That
right?
kind of intimidation.
All right.
So, but I'm a board member. I serve with you.
Yes. So what are you going to do
If I
about
allow
it?
that to happen without speaking up, I'm just as guilty as you are.
Really?
Yeah, you're mistreating a homeowner, and I'm allowing it to happen, so I'm mistreating that homeowner
So
too.
you wouldn't let me do that in a meeting?
I would stand up and say, you know, Mr. Nigmeyer, you're not treating your homeowner respectfully. Please refrain.
My name's Chuck.
Okay.
All right?
And I wasn't angry at you, so I called
So
you by.
I can see.
your last
All right,
name.
I feel intimidated. Okay.
But if you fail to do something like that, you're just as responsible. And
I
you
get
can be
it.
called before the commission, and you can be penalized by the commission in the same way that that board member who was mistreating is penalized.
So how would I do that? How would I as a homeowner elevate what I think is mistreatment?
So
to
now you're
higher-
a homeowner. So now
Yeah.
you're being a homeowner.
Yes.
Well, in that case, the best thing you can do, if you feel like you've been bullied, mistreated in some way, get a copy of the audio from the meeting.
Oh, we record these meetings. I forgot.
State
You're
law.
Right.
You
Okay.
got to record them. Now,
Yeah.
everything that you may have said out of line now is suddenly on audio.
I got to be careful there.
Well, you do the right thing.
Yeah, that's true.
And you also want a copy of the minutes of the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go to the real estate division, the ombudsman's office, file a complaint with the ombudsman, and they can take that complaint and act on it, and to the extent of possibly forwarding that onto the commission.
So if I've done something that's unlawful, it can actually go to this commission. Is that right?
Absolutely.
And what do they do?
Well, they will listen. They will have a hearing for you.
Oh, another
And
hearing.
they'll listen to the audio that where you called the guy some names or whatever.
Wow.
And you then become the person who they're going to decide what penalties you're supposed to have.
Okay, so I get
It
that.
can be thousands of dollars in fines.
Oh, that would be painful.
They can require you to step down from the board. They can require you to have training before you can ever
Okay.
go on the board.
I get the idea.
So, it's a big deal.
All right, so we've kind of gone over that. I understand that, but now I got one for you. Let's say my neighbors over here, a couple doors down, they've got a complaint with each other about some issue, and they bring it to the board. Can they do that?
They can bring anything to the board, can't they?
Well, they can, but
the
this is
question
a
what-
personal thing.
What does the board do about it, right?
Yeah, so what
And
do
the
you
first
do?
thing is, if you're a board member, whenever possible, you just don't get involved in private property disputes between residents.
Why?
Because it's between residents. It's not something, generally the CC&Rs, your job is to
What's
enforce
that?
the rules.
CC Oh, the rules. I get it. I remember
do the
now.
rules. You
Okay,
gotta follow the
fine.
rules.
Got it.
And the rules generally don't apply to private property
All right.
disputes between
Okay.
homeowners. But if they do, like they built a wall and it's too high,
Okay.
it doesn't comply with the CC&Rs, then
Sure.
of course the HOA has to get involved.
All right.
But these people just don't like each other.
So what do we do then?
Then you talk to them, encourage them to work it out together.
But what if they can't?
Well, the first thing is they probably haven't discussed it together. They probably want somebody else to take care of the problem.
They
like
may not even know each other.
they
you
may
know
not
that?
even know their names.
That's
right.
true.
It happens. So the first thing is don't take a side between the homeowners, because then
Got it.
you're doomed, right? You've,
All right.
you've already shown that you are not unbiased.
Okay, I won't do that.
All right. Unless your documents say that wall that he put up is a violation. In which
Okay,
case you
I understand that.
if they can't work it out, the best suggestion I can give is that you direct them to the Clark County, and assuming that this is in Clark County, there are other counties that have similar organizations called the Regional Justice Center, and request an HOA specialist. That's
So
very
they
important.
actually have people that
They
do that.
They do.
Okay.
And they help resolve issues between homeowners who live in HOAs.
All right.
That's and you see that link on your
Yeah.
slide.
Wow, look at that slide. You know, that might be the most important slide here.
We should have every other slide should be
We
this
should do that. You know, it really does say it well. You know what it says?
one. Be reasonable.
Yeah.
Just be reasonable.
I'm not the sheriff.
No,
You
you're
know,
not.
we elect him.
A lot of board members think that they're the
Publicly.
sheriff in
Yeah.
the community or the mayor of the community.
I'm just a homeowner.
Just a homeowner trying to help.
That's right.
Be friendly. Be a neighbor.
Yes.
Listen. Don't argue.
Oh, I don't like to argue
If you
anymore.
do these kind of things, you're going to have a much happier existence on the board and a much happier community.
Community would be much better off.
I think so.
agree. Yes.
Here's some things, that can help board members. Some research information from this CAI, Community Associations Institute's research library. It's on a web page. And you can download these articles and information at your leisure to help board members and homeowners in their HOA.
You know, I actually have gone to that site and I've downloaded some documents. They're very, very helpful.
They are.
And they're very pertinent to what we do as a board member.
And you can search for all different kind of things in there and you'll find some,
Yes.
what other people have done, what worked for somebody else might work for you.
I'd encourage anyone that's a board member to do that.
So thank you. We hope this presentation on how to reduce and avoid anger in your meetings is useful to you. And we encourage you to visit our website to download additional CAI Nevada Media Education programs. Thank you for your time.